Hello, welcome to my channel, and thank you for being here. Today's talk continues the series of Unsettled, part of the trilogy, and the story of the dispossession of the Xhosa and their resistance against Boer and British. And the first image, the caption reads, Memorial at the top of the Zeerberg range to the Graaff-Reinet Landdrost Anders Stockenstrom, who was killed by Xhosa warriors when they heard of the attacks of Colonel Graham in the Zeerveld on 28 December 1811, while meeting a Xhosa delegation at the outset of the Fourth Frontier War. Stockenstrom was advising them to abandon their homes in the Zeerveld immediately prior to Colonel John Graham's offensive to clear the Zeerveld of all its Xhosa inhabitants. To call the Colonel Graham's activities an offensive is to understate it. The military operation that he conducted was using artillery and the like, was more of an ethnic cleansing of the Xhosa of the then Zeerveld, and in which they lost thousands of people and tens of thousands of cattle, transforming the Zeerveld into the Albany district of today. It's understandable, perhaps, that the Xhosa should have doubted and the intentions of the Landdrost, Stockenstrom, and seen him as being in cahoots with the British, the depredations of the British through Colonel Graham, who was later to be memorialized by the garrison and town of Grahamstown, now thankfully named Makhanda. And this cairn of stones is the memorial that remains to memorialize Stockenstrom, who in that history played a very big role in that unfolding history of that period in time. And the second image is related to this, the one you've just seen, and the caption reads, Doornnek, the pass where the memorial to Landdrost Anders Stockenstrom is situated, Zeerberg. So my images don't do justice to the beauty of this, the Zeerberg. If you love to visit the many, many beautiful places in South Africa is just awash in beauty. The Zeerberg is one of those places, and there's an incredible drive over the Zeerberg either from the Port Elizabeth region over towards Somerset East or the other way around. Rather rugged drive, best conducted in a sturdy bakkie or such kind of vehicle, but well worth it if you ever have the opportunity and are love to be in such kind of environments. And rich in this history as well, that I think few people, this cairn, for instance, in the first image, is not marked along that road. And so you really have to do some, you have to know do some homework to be able to find such places. But that was part of the joy of my project, was searching for places like this and immersing myself in that wilderness and landscape and the history of what had transpired. And the third image, the caption reads, "Entrance to a game farm, one of the many in the present district of Albany, formerly known as the Zeerveld." And I included such images because this is what present day Albany, or the Zeerveld, has returned to being a place of game parks and nature conservation places, which is pretty much what it had been prior to the settlement, white settlement. And in fact, when the white settlers arrived in the Eastern Cape, they found what they described as park-like landscape, which had in fact been manufactured by the original inhabitants, namely the Khoi and the Xhosa, who had carefully husbanded and managed that landscape through their largely animal farming, integrating their animals, their livestock, with the wilderness that existed. Probably quite an intelligent way of farming. And the settlers and colonialists were lulled into thinking that this would be great agricultural land, and in that it could be used to farm. And in fact, the first settlers, the 1820 settlers that moved into this devastated war zone that had been ethnically cleansed by Colonel Graham, including my ancestors, Dunn and Biggers, 1820 settler ancestors, were under contract with the British government to only grow crops, largely vegetables, in the land that they were settled on, which was almost largely unsuitable for that purpose. And most of them were failures. And that's a story that will play out along the telling of the story of how they were destituted by that process of attempting to grow crops in an environment that wasn't suited for that, but suited rather to the purposes that you see in this image as game parks, which it has now returned to. So I'll end this talk here, and until the next one, say thank you for watching. And if you like this talk, remember to press the like button, and also press subscribe. It helps the channel grow.